All right, so let's work on varying the layout now for our landscape mode. So what we want to do is we want to use this Vary for Traits button down here. Now when I click on Vary for Traits, I can introduce variations based on either height or width or both. In this case, I just want to vary the traits based on the height. And so you notice over here that it's telling me that I'm currently viewing as an iPhone 8, which is a compact width and height. And you can see that there are 7 compact height devices here. Okay, and now in this mode where I have a blue bar down here, I can now go over here and I can edit in the Attributes Inspector or in the Size Inspector the different constraints. So remember, I don't want now the 7 to be tied to the leading. So let's go look at that leading constraint. Line leading to, let's see, 4 is fine. Line leading to the label, that's the one I want to get rid of. So I select this thing and I hit the delete key. And notice it all shrunk up because my trailing is on the right hand side over here. This plus has a right there, a line trailing to the label, and that's the one that now is controlling this. Notice I still have that 7 leading, but I can't view it in this particular mode right here. I will only see that when I say I'm done varying and I rotate back to portrait. But if I run this, now I recognize things are not fully specified anymore, but let's run this and see what happens in our simulator. And it still looks just fine in portrait mode. When I go to landscape, yeah, it actually did a pretty good job based on that set of constraints. But what I'd really like to do is I'd like to say, look, I want to use the full vertical space that's available to me here. So while I'm still in this blue varying mode, I want to add a constraint. So control drag from this button down to the bottom, and say bottom space to safe area, and let's edit that. And I really don't want that to be constant 42. I want this to be a small constraint. So let's say maybe 4. And notice what happened here is it said, okay, I'm going to stretch you down to a 4, and because of those aspect ratio and equal height and width constraints, it's saying, okay, here's how I make those all the equal height and width and fill the space out. Okay, that's fine. And again, if I run it on the simulator, you'll see it works on the simulator the same way you're seeing here in Xcode. Okay, there it is. Portrait and landscape. All right, fine. And by the way, I can select the different devices over here, and you'll see the frame change. So this is the iPhone XS. I think that's the one that our simulator is. Okay, anyway, now, what if I wanted to move some of these buttons around? So let's put the C to the upper right, let's put the AC below it, and then the equal, let's make it vertical instead of horizontal. All right, how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to go back to this C button, and I'm basically just going to go clear out its constraints. And so I'm going to go say, clear the constraints on that thing. And on my AC, same deal. Let's clear the constraints on that one. And my equal button, let's clear its constraints. All right, now this plus, I don't really want it to be trailing aligned with the 3.14. What I want it to do now, let's go grab all of these buttons. So I'm going to select the whole batch of them. I'm going to move them over a bit. And I recognize I don't have them exactly where I want. That's okay. We'll have it all fixed up here in a bit. Now it's this C that I want to put up here. And I want it to be aligned trailing with that label. Okay, now that's one constraint. The other thing that I want to do, let's see, where do I have the, let's see, escape here. Over on my 7, let's see, my 7 button. See, its top space to the label is set to 8. So if my C has the same top as that 7, then it's going to be in good shape. In fact, the C should have, all right, let's go fix it up here. I want a horizontal spacing of 8. I want its top to be the same, and I want equal heights and widths for everything in that row. And now let's go back and select that. Whoops, I did not want to do that. I thought I was selecting the constraint, but I wasn't. All right, so let's go do it the more reliable way. I click on that, go to the size inspector, and the leading space, I want that to be 8. And now everything adjusts. That's the way I want it to be. Let's put the AC over here. And it's going to be similar. So control drag, I want horizontal spacing of 8. I want the top align and equal heights and widths. Okay, and let's verify that that's, okay, I need to edit that to say exactly 8 for the spacing. And now the equal, let's drag it to the size we want it to be. Can I hit the, where are my guidelines? Well, it's not showing me guidelines. All right, so now for this guy, I want it, so there are lots of ways I could write these constraints, but let's set its leading and trailing to match the AC button. Let's set a vertical spacing constraint. And now, let's see what the constraint is on that. So 8, yep, that's right. Okay, now the last thing that we want to do is we want to say between the divide and the equals, I want the bottom to be the same. And now that stretches it back out. Now the one last thing I need is I need the thing that says let's tie this whole group of buttons to the bottom. And so let's put in a bottom space to safe area, and let's set that, oops, set that back to 4. Okay. Now I'm doing all of these things, and I've made all of these changes. Now I'm done varying. And so now if I go back to portrait, you see the layout that I'm looking for, and landscape, the layout I'm looking for. That's how you use this little blue bar to add and remove these constraints. Let me run it in the simulator just to prove that it actually works. Up comes the simulator eventually. Is it running? Okay. So here you see the animation, and you see that it moves the buttons where I want them. It's got all of those adjustments, and I've been able to vary this user interface based on the size class traits that I'm interested in. I don't know if this is more useful to you. It certainly is more clear than what I did in class today, but it takes some time to get this intuition, and you're going to make mistakes. And I would just say commit to Git before you start making changes. I had done that prior to doing the first video and in between the first and the second video. And now I'm going to say, well, I finished the landscape variants, and we'll commit that. But it's easy to get things wrong, and you'll just have to play around with it a bit. I hope this has been helpful to you. Let me know if you have questions and if there are things that you'd like me to specifically demonstrate to you.